I think I need to richen that up. Doesn't sound good. Yeah, real raspy. Oh, I'm wide open across that. Yeah, it smells real hot too. Oh dude, it was hooking up though. Felt good.
What's going on, YouTube? Welcome back to part 2 of my Lectron carburetor installation video series. We're going to do things a little different today because my on-bike commentary just didn't pan out the way I'd hoped. So let's just dive right in. Is the Lectron carburetor perfect? No, I don't think it's perfect. Do I regret buying it? Absolutely not. I'm very pleased. Let's find out why. So, day 1, we're out at the river. It's about sea level, within a couple hundred feet, so elevation is very low, and so is the temp. It was about 40 to 45 degrees this day, and great day of riding. The carburetor was as shipped from the factory, with the metering rod set to 2.015 inches. I hadn't touched anything until a few moments down the trail here. My initial response was the throttle response is incredible. Where was this bike the entire last year that I've been riding it? I don't know that it necessarily made more power until I got to the top end. I did notice that I had a lot more on the top end of this bike, where previously my GasGas had been more of a low end and mid-range monster. Still is, but I've got a bit more top end than I used to. Gives me a bit of over rev, which I found very handy. The only problem was, as shipped, as we're running across this long stretch of sand here, mostly wide open throttle, I noticed that the bike started to sound real raspy. You can take a listen, you might be able to hear it through my microphone. Additionally, one other complaint I had with the first day of testing was that when I was riding it real hard, the bike didn't want to settle back into idle. It sounded like it had a hanging idle, and it just did not want to settle down into a smooth idle. I didn't do anything about that, but I did adjust the carb right up here. And if you hear that hanging idle. So what I did there was richened up the power jet about a half turn to add some more fuel on the top end. And for the rest of the day, it was phenomenal. It didn't feel like the bike was too raspy when I rode it hard. And other than the hanging idle when I would come to a stop, carb was just flawless. Excellent throttle response, excellent fueling, and I didn't have any oil out the tailpipe. Not totally uncommon, but I usually only see that when the bike's running a little lean. I'm running Motul 800, pre-mixed to about 44 to 1, and my understanding is that Motul 800 being synthetic, the way it's designed, it doesn't burn off very well at low temps, so you really got to be on it to get that oil to burn off. So, as we progress into day 2, I should let you know that prior to day 2, my longer throttle cable arrived. It was 3 inches longer than the factory cable that Lectron had supplied, part number 4615-10-L. I prefer this cable for my GasGas to keep the cable routing, the throttle cable routing, factory, behind my number plate in front of my bars. I did not like the KTM style routing that I had to achieve just to get day 1 testing done, but hey, it got me on the trail, and it helped me figure out what's up with the carb, what do I like, what do I want to change. So, before day 2, I decided to richen up the metering rod 1/4 turn, which brought the metering rod length down to 2.010 inches. In doing so, that quarter turn dramatically richened up the bottom end. So from idle to part throttle, you could notice a difference. I didn't lose any power though. It wasn't fluffy, it wasn't too rich, it was just right. So for this, I'm very pleased. So day 2 of testing was up in the woods. We were riding from about 2,500 feet to 5,000 feet. And again, the temperature was around 40 to 45 degrees for these 2 days. Day 2 was the only day that I made any other changes though, and that was the metering rod that I mentioned. So riding day 2, 2 things really stuck out in my mind because we actually had hills out here. The first is that the Lectron displays a disturbing tendency that my PWK did. And when I'm going down a hill, with no throttle, especially if the clutch is pulled in, it will want to flame out after a few moments. My PWK used to do this, and in the exact same trails and sections, I'm finding the Lectron does. Now, I don't know if this is related to a float adjustment, or maybe the positioning of the carb, because it is at a couple of different angles. Two of the axes are angled on my bike. And this has to do with getting it to fit right. Not to say that the Lectron doesn't fit, because it actually fits really good. There was no cutting of the boot required or anything like that. But nonetheless, it does like to flame out on me when I'm going down a hill. So I got to learn a new skill, blipping the throttle while I'm going downhill. The other time the Lectron likes to flame out is when you're sitting at idle for a few moments. And I've played with my idle adjustment. To be honest, I get the best throttle response when it wants to flame out after a few seconds sitting at idle. So, not a big deal for me. I don't spend a lot of time idling on the side of the trail. It's not that important. What is important is when I'm bogging up a nasty section, how quickly does the throttle respond? And that's what I tuned it for. And the response is phenomenal. But just understand, when I come to a stop, I may be restarting the bike because it may want to flame out. So I'll either blip the throttle or I'll just kill it. I do have an E-start and it's a 2-stroke, so it kicks pretty easily. So is there anything else you'd like to mention about the Lectron? Yeah, I think it's worth noting that the choke handle just sucks on this bike. At the advice of a couple other GasGasers, I opted for the carb mounted choke. Instead of maintaining my factory lever mounted choke, I've been told that there could be some issues with that. That's fine. I only use my choke once at the beginning of a ride, but I gotta tell you, if you don't pull it up properly, it won't stay up. So I can get my hand in there. I think I've pulled it up, but as soon as I go to kick the bike, it drops right back down. Kind of a pain. Luckily, I have an E-start, so I'll just pull the choke cord up and just hit the E-start while I'm holding it. Let the bike run for a few seconds, drop the choke, we're off. And for the rest of the day, we're golden. So is it a big issue? No. Is it worth noting? Absolutely. I feel like I should be totally fair with you guys. No one's paying me for these videos. In case you haven't noticed, I don't do commercials. I haven't monetized my channel. I do this because it's fun, because I love riding, and you guys love good video. Well, I'll work on the good video part, but until then, you're gonna have to deal with what you get out of me. So overall, super pleased with the Lectron carburetor. It did all the stuff that I really wanted it to do, and being able to take it to 2 different elevations with about the same temperature and humidity really helped in the testing, because with my PWK carb, there would have been some dramatic differences. I would have been a lot leaner at the river at the lower elevation, and I found when we're up in the hills, riding through the woods, generally the fueling's pretty good, even if it's really cold outside. With that said, riding up there in 100-degree weather, it gets rich and blubbery with the PWK. So time will tell, when we get to the hot weather season again, how well the Lectron carb maintains that same fueling at different temperatures. But I can say right now, with the few thousand feet in elevation change I've made, I'm pretty happy with it. Now, I feel like I should throw this out there. I know these videos weren't the most phenomenal riding videos, and there's a lot of stuff you may have questions on about the fueling. How does it sound? How does it feel? And for that, I recommend that you click on the video in my link below in the description. This is 3rd day of testing, actually, but I've already posted this video. It's called NorCal Wrecking Crew Trip to the Woods. And in this video, you could see me smashing up a pretty good hill in the beginning at decent speed. You can also see us tractoring through some pretty slow and nasty stuff. So if you really want to hear how the carb sounds and get a feel for how it responds, go ahead and check that video out. Tell me what you think. Hope you've enjoyed. Until next time, keep the rubber side down.
Should be jumping on top of that probably. Working on my hard enduro skills. Or I guess I could start working on hard enduro skills.